Welcome to the Stronger Together podcast. I'm your coach, Kenny Markwood, and today I have one of my best friends in the world, Kirk Selmyer, who is also a coach here at Sandpoint Strength and a member of, I think we decided 11 or 12 years. So,
Yeah, something like that.
yeah, he brings a lot of cool perspectives and stories, and I'm excited to chat with him today. So let's start with that. I mean, you've been here over a decade. You've got a really cool story. So let's start with how you found the gym, walked into the gym, and kind of what that experience has been like for you.
Yeah, I had just turned 30, I think, and was really not in very good shape. I was a little over 300 pounds the day I walked in the gym. And actually, I think I read an article about you guys in our local newspaper, which,
Despite all its misspellings,
yeah,
did something productive for
it's good.
for
And I was like, yeah, I'll go check that place out. And a different the gym's in the same place, but it was kind of a smaller scene back in those days. And I think we had the AstroTurf in there then.
Yep.
Yeah, we had the AstroTurf in there, like a little running lane and some cool stuff. And yeah, I sort of had a background of like, I grew up in sports like football, wrestling, track, all that kind of stuff. And then I joined the army out of school. So like most of my physical fitness stuff I would do in a group. And what I probably figured out by the time I was 30 was if I didn't have a group to do stuff in, I wasn't probably going to do it on my own. So the group class format really kind of spoke to me that was kind of a big part of why I walked in the door because I knew I needed that again. So yeah, that was kind of the origin of why I popped in there.
And you were in quite different state of fitness and well-being
Yeah,
at
for
that point.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of when I got out of the army, I was just like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not getting up at 6 in the morning, go work out, any of that kind of stuff. So definitely diet was in bad shape, and was not training at all really. After, being in pretty good shape, army days, high school days and all that kind of stuff. So I just stepped out of it and yeah, was working kind of a desk job, so wasn't getting a lot of movement during the day necessarily, other than going out to the field or whatever. But needed something a little bit more to kind of get me up and moving. And yeah,
Yeah. And what was your weight at that point, Kirk?
I think I was like 303 the day that I walked into the gym. And it was like close to the high water mark when when I walked in there. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm down to about 205 now.
So 100 pounds.
Yeah, about 100 pounds difference. Yeah, it was not a straight line to get there. I kind of slogged away as, the guy that was 270 pounds in the gym for a long time. And that's hard. I kind of tip my cap to people that keep coming and doing that because it's hard. Like even at some of the lower levels doing some of these things when you're carrying around some extra weight. It's interesting to go in and pick up a couple of 45-pound plates and try and carry that around the block. Now
Yeah, right.
it's a freaking workout, man. So it takes a lot of perseverance to keep going and slogging away like that. So that's definitely not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. What kept you going? I mean, what was the impetus to
You know, like I was pretty new to town in those days. I'd only lived here about 9 months at that point. So I didn't really have any friends outside of, kind of my work crew and whatever. So I was looking for some friends at that time too. And I met all my best friends, you included, Steve Torres, a lot of these guys that were kind of the old timers, been around for a long time. So yeah, it really, and I felt like had a little bit of community, got a little bit more embedded here. And then that does keep you going. You want to go back and see your friends and hang out, do whatever. So yeah, you'll endure a lot
Yeah.
for some of the social outlet, I guess.
Was it intimidating at the time? I mean, that was we'll get into some of the journey and how you've been through all of it, but at that time, I think we were more competitive. There was more
For sure.
bravado, especially in the afternoon classes, which I believe you were at.
Yeah, I was an afternoon guy for sure. Was it intimidating? And I don't think so. I
Okay.
mean, I felt like everybody was super welcoming. I remember Steve talking to me on that first day, and I was like, "Oh, this guy And he was, he's a hell of an athlete. So I was like, oh, okay, I fit in here. I got a spot here.
Yeah.
And, and even in those days too, we had a pretty good blend of different kinds of folks in there too that were different fitness levels. So I was routinely the last finisher, uh, but which was fine, like I didn't feel like that was a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think that that's such a hang up for people, and they get started on the thing. They feel I don't know, shame or discomfort with that, and it's just. I mean, I think we do a much better job of that now with the level method and making sure that people tend to finish around the same time, just with different stimulus. But I mean, at the end of the day, one of the things I think we've CrossFit has kind of said is like that it's a environment where the people that finish last are usually the ones that are getting supported the most.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
that's a neat aspect to it.
Yeah. I think with the level method, everybody gets a turn to finish last now, even like some of our better athletes, because they're pushing themselves into some of these really extreme things. And I noticed that in a partner workout last week where it was like our two best male and female athletes, and they were on a team together and they finished last. But it's because they were going so hard, and they just got broken down by the end. And so I think it's kind of a cool thing that everybody gets a little bit of a turn to experience that too.
Yeah, I think it's in a personal sense for me, having gone through the trials of jujitsu before I did CrossFit, like getting
Mhm.
that like beaten out of you in a I mean that gently, but like getting your ego, like getting over the fact that like it doesn't really matter, I think is a really important aspect for people getting started. And then like the way that that translates into every other aspect of life is just cool because it doesn't matter. I mean, and again, I
It
think that
doesn't,
yeah,
no.
realizing that allows you so much more freedom in trying new adventures and knowing that you're not going to be as good as you want to be. You're going to be the worst one, and that realistically nobody cares.
No one cares.
Most people are just happy that they're not the last one, so they're glad that that's the
I feel like you got tunnel vision when you're in there anyway. You're just trying to survive the workout or do whatever you need to do to get it done. And yeah, there's not a lot of time for looking around, seeing how somebody else is doing. So,
yeah.
uh, yeah, when you're in kind of the moment. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. So, yeah, I mean, as far as for new people, I think that's such a good. We could probably do more of that to just communicate to people like, look, just finishing last is just. I think it's
Yeah.
a good lesson. I think it's. If,
It is a good lesson. And then I think what you're going to find is that you're not going to finish last forever.
yeah,
There's going to be somebody new that's coming in behind you, and you're going to be the one with some experience and be able to show people how to do a movement correctly, or, how to pace, which is a big part of it too, right?
yeah,
Figuring out where your threshold is.
yep,
So, yeah.
yeah, for sure. That's awesome. And then like, tell me about how you got so your 100-pound loss. Which, by the way, there was a you love to remind me of. I think at one point or another, I told you you may just not be genetically predisposed to being under what, like 225 or something.
I think you told me 200.
Okay.
Yeah. And I briefly touched that a couple of summers ago. I got to like 197 and my body was like instantly like, no, that's not for you, man. So, yeah, that road, I went home to visit my folks in Ohio, visit my brother and all the family for, I think it was Thanksgiving, and it was 2018, wasn't too long ago, 6 years ago now, I guess, just about. And my folks were not doing real well health wise. And I was kind of looking into, you know, looking down the road because I was working for the federal government in those days. And, you have like it's all about retirement, and all that stuff, and accumulating all this wealth so you can go do all these things and whatever. And I'm like, if I had all this money and I had that level of physical fitness, like that's my genetics right there, right? That's my mom and dad, and they just were not moving real well. I'm like, man, what's the point of having the money and the retirement and not being able to do anything, like, right? So, and I could feel that, I think it was 36 or whatever. And I could feel that at that time. And so I went home and got super serious. I got super dialed in. And I think people ask me like how you did it. And I'm like, I didn't just do like one thing. I did a lot of things consistently over a long period of time. And the first thing I think I did was I started kind of getting real serious about food journaling. So everything that was going in my mouth, I was recording it and on an app. I think I was using Lose It just to do my food journal or whatever. So that was kind of the first thing I did. And then I bought like a Fitbit and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to track how much I'm moving throughout the day. And I was going to a CrossFit gym in Port Angeles where I was living at the time. I'd moved away for, I think that was the first year that I moved there. I think I moved there in September. And so I joined a gym as soon as I got there with a similar idea, like I need to make some friends and do the thing and keep doing some stuff. And so I was still moving, I was still doing stuff, but I really started paying attention to what I was eating, how much I was sleeping, those kind of things that, you had probably been telling me for years, like, you can't work your way out of a bad diet. Like you got to keep doing like you can come here every day. It doesn't really matter. I get you for an hour, if you came 6 days a week or whatever, it's like that's 6 hours of your life. What are you doing the rest of the time? And I don't think I was doing some of the best things. So yeah, I think that kind of started with just having awareness about what I was eating and what I was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good observation and good experience with that. I think, we're doing all the fitness stuff, which is great. Like you will be, and I think you were 10 times fitter than when you started.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Performance wise, body composition wise, like it really does come down to the other 23 hours in the day. And we have that
Right.
conversation as coaches a lot.
Yeah.
We'll do an in body for somebody, we'll see where they're at. Like, so performance wise, they're leveling up, they're doing all the cool things, but their body compositions, it's changed, but not to the extent that most people are.
What they want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it really, that's where the diet conversation comes in. So
yeah,
that's cool. I mean, glad to hear it from your perspective and experience because it's important.
Yeah. Well, I think initially when you started doing some nutrition coaching back in the day, I was one of your guinea pig clients. And so you got a little bit of a peek behind the curtain and you're like, Kirk, you're eating like a box of oranges a day or whatever.
I do remember that.
I'm like, I got a good deal on them, So yeah, kind of some funny history in there too. And I'm like, nah, Kenny doesn't know what he's talking about. Sneak preview. I've done all the things the hard way. Kenny knows what he's talking about. So this is not a paid advertisement. No. Yeah, I think that's, it is the foundation of your fitness, how you're sleeping, how you're fueling your body, doing those kind of things. And if you're not getting that right, you're just not going to get to where you want to go. And again, it's really hard when you're, 280 pounds and you're going in and you're doing these workouts and you're kind of slogging around. It's hard. It's hard showing up and it's hard to get motivated about going back too. And I think that's the other kind of key to it is when every workout's a war and you got to go in there and you're not feeling like you're doing anything, that gets demoralizing and it gets tough. And I did have a lot of breaks in there where I'd take a few weeks off here or there and came back. Like I've started this gym more times than anybody. But now, being where I'm at now, like if I go away for a week or two, like I miss it. Like even just for a few days out of there, I feel like I've been out for a long time. And you do start to kind of, and I tell people that like you do kind of oddly get addicted to it and you get addicted to the way it makes you feel and they don't believe you, but some of that might be that kind of body composition where they're at physically. And if they can get over that hump, then coming actually is pretty fun. Coming to the gym's pretty fun. Getting a workout in with your friends, pretty fun. So yeah.
Yeah. What advice do you, I mean, for the starting and stopping and again, you moved away, you've done some travel, which we can get into in a second, but the starting and stopping can be really overwhelming for like getting back on the horse. Like you've got momentum and then you stop.
Right. Yeah. And I think, where I've come down on it now is because I am in and out of the gym a lot. And I do kind of have a life outside of, I do get away from it. And I have different kind of seasons in my life too, where I'm not doing the gym thing as much and I'm going out walking around, hiking, doing whatever. And I think that's fine. What you need to recognize if you do that, and I think the level method really sets you up super nice for that too, is like, oh, you can jump right back in here. But like I went to Colombia last winter. And so I was out I was out for like 10 weeks. Right. And I was going to, they got like basically their version of like Planet Fitness type things. And I was popping into a couple of those here and there where I could find them. But what was nice when I came back is I'm like, oh, I'm going to use the level method to kind of ramp me back up slowly. So like I did a week of like, oh, I'm just going to do yellow. And I'm normally like, I would say a brown level kind of athlete. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to do a week at yellow. I'm going to do a week at orange. I'm going to do a week at blue. I'm going to do a week at purple. So a month, right? And then I'm going to do whatever I want to do after that, right? And just kind of just ramp your way back in.
Yep.
So if you are that kind of person where you're like, you expect to be able to do brown, black level workouts, great. Just give your body a little bit of time to jump back into it. Cause the soreness and all that kind of stuff it's kind of part of the game, right? Like when you come back and you've taken 10 weeks or whatever, and you haven't been doing a lot of this kind of stuff, that muscles, it's going to be like you've never done it before. And you just got to be, prepared for that. And if you know that it's going to pass, it's not that big of a deal. So
yeah. And it passes relatively quick.
It does for sure. And I think some of that too is just having a baseline of fitness where you can kind of borrow out of the bank a little bit too. So I can step away for 10 weeks and it's like, this didn't continue me on my road, but I'm not that far back. And it's like a month, 6 weeks, you can kind of get back to where you're at. So
did you have a harder time with that before, like when you first had some time away from the gym? Cause like,
those days were way harder. When I was a lot heavier, it was way harder to get back in, and it was a lot more of a challenge. So that is, again, to those people that are out there that are kind of struggling with that, I can totally relate to that. That is very hard to come back in and just feel like you're starting all over from nowhere, from nothing. And you're not. Like, that's kind of the thing too, is a lot of this stuff is kind of like insidious in a good way, right? Like it sneaks up on you. Your fitness kind of sneaks up on you and you're like, oh man, I can do a lot more than what I think I can do now. And I think I see that in the gym a little bit too with the level method. I'll see people that are kind of like, they're parked at a certain level. And I'm like, and when I'm coaching them, hey, you can do, you've been here a year now. You've been here 18 months now. You can pick up a heavier kettlebell. You can do this. And I just thought I was a blue level athlete. And I'm like, well, it's time for you to get introduced to purple, give it a shot because and a lot of people kind of limit themselves a little bit that way too. And they don't recognize that how far they progress, but the coaches can see it for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the normalizing of the starting and stopping, like, to a degree, a year off and then in, like, that's
tough.
That's pretty counterproductive, but I do the same thing. I mean, I'm out, like right now, I'm in hunting season. I'm usually doing purple or below just because it's like being gym fit isn't my biggest priority. And I'm trying to just kind of like, if I go for a couple mile hike and pack something out, like I don't want to, again, it's just my priorities have shifted. And then I'm out of the gym a lot now. Like I do I'm out for weeks at a time, but getting back in, like you said, starting at a lower level and building back up and then getting back in the routine. Like just, I think comprehending that it's not all or nothing and that you can step away and you can come back in, and like you just kind of coming to terms with knowing that experience isn't, it's not about, I guess I'll transition a little bit and say that like people think that it's them, like, oh, I stopped going to the gym, so I'm a loser.
Yeah.
The holidays got me, or they, and I think they build up the re-entry in to be a big thing, so they just never do. But once you've done it, I mean, I've done it hundreds of times probably now.
Sure.
I think it sounds like you have as well.
Yep.
And you kind of like know that you're going to be off the horse and then on the horse and off the horse, and that's okay. Like that's just the lifetime of the journey is going to look like that, and that's good.
Yeah, you're a whole person, and you're not just a gym rat, and you can't just I mean, there's people that do that, obviously, but most of us, 99% of us, we got other things going on in our life. And holidays, kids, whatever, right? There's work, something's going to hold you out of there. Or, you with hunting, September, you're a ghost in there. And that's good. It's good that you take the time off. For me, it's travel. and, I like to escape the winter. Oh, yeah. I think that's what kind of my drive is. And it's like, if you think about it, like kind of like a bank account or savings account, and it's like, you just build a little emergency fund up for your body and you work hard, however many months out of the year, and then you can draw from your account for a little while, and you're not gonna go backwards, per se. Like, you're not gonna go into a debt. You just got to build up that fund again when you get back. So yeah.
Awesome. I love it. I totally agree. I think that coming back to the ego thing of getting started, I think that just turning that off and like I people comment all the time, like I just don't really care. I'm sure that I have a perspective. Like I own the gym. I've been doing this forever, but like I get teased for they're like, dude, you really don't care about just doing blue and
No,
going
he
slow
does
and
not
whatever.
care.
And I just, yeah, I
Yeah, it's
really don't.
great. Yeah, it's great. And
Like,
I think that's had a good kind of impact on some other people at the gym too, that, you know, maybe they are kind of those athletes that are like, they're black level all the time, but they see you doing that and they're like, oh, maybe, my body's telling me right now, maybe I need to throttle back a little bit. And I think that's a good kind of example to set for other people too. Cause you don't always have to be full on, full out. Sometimes you just got to go move. Like, I should probably go today or do something because I did 300 wall balls yesterday to settle a bet with one of our members, which congratulations, Ashley. You got your first pull up. We made a bet last year around Halloween that she was going to do her first pull up. And I was rooting. This is like, it's a weird thing, right? Because I actually wanted to lose the bet. I rarely, make a bet that I want to lose, right? And it felt really good to lose that one. So she got one this summer and she's been training those things and it's cool. That was really, really cool. And 300 wall balls. Yeah. If you do wind up finding out, Kirk died tragically somehow. That's the Kirk workout now. You guys can memorialize me with 300 wall balls. It is not, that was not one of my favorite things. Took me just over half an hour. So beat that time if you want to. Go for it. Maybe you can put a 30-minute time cap on it. There you go.
I'm not chasing that until you're dead. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, don't
I
do it.
really
I
don't want to do that for
can't
a lot of
recommend.
reasons.
Yeah, I can't recommend it. I kind of hobbled over here this morning,
Yeah.
so
We'll see if we can get you out of this chair. That's a good segue into. So let's talk about how you started coaching and what that experience has been like being on this side of the whiteboard. And
yeah. Well, I was, like I said, I was working for USDA, and 2020 was not super happy and didn't really feel like I wanted to do another 20 years of that and do all that kind of thing. And I'd always had sort of an entrepreneurial bent and wanted to do kind of my own thing. So I started my own business, forestry consulting business, Osprey Resource Management, and didn't know what I was doing. Didn't really have it built out. So I didn't have a bunch going on. I had a lot of free time in my day, and you and I got chatting about it, I think the fall of 21. And I was going to go to Ecuador for 3 months, and you're like, hey, when you come back, you should coach for me. Okay, cool. Let's do it. And kind of came back in, and everybody's like, who the hell is this guy? So it was fun. It was a different challenge being on the other side of the thing. And, I'm still not, I think there was a little bit of an intimidation factor there because I'm not the coach that's doing muscle ups and doing all these crazy things. Like, I can do a lot, but still cannot string together double unders to save my life. And so demo and, jump rope and muscle ups and stuff like that's not my favorite thing, but I worked through it. And we had some other coaches that were they had a similar limitation one way or the other. And they gave me a lot of encouragement. They're like, you don't need to be able to do all this stuff. You just need to be able to show people how to do it. And so I took a lot from that. And the members were great, and that was really cool. And that's kind of what keeps you showing back up again. And wound up with a few classes that were kind of my own. Started out as kind of the noon coach. And yeah, that was really cool. So you kind of get people on their lunch hour and you're trying to get them in and get them out, get them a good workout. And so, yeah, it was a fun class to be a part of.
yeah, actually, the way I remember it is I think it was Thanksgiving, and we were standing around the bar, and we probably had a couple drinks. And
Yep,
I think
definitely.
that's how this And I think Jen and I were both there, and we said, "Dude, you should coach." And I think you were a little bit taken aback. I
Yeah.
think you had
I
immediate.
had no I'm like, what do I know about this? I don't know anything about this. And you're like, you've been doing this a long time. You know a lot about it. So yeah, I hadn't considered it.
Yeah, and I think that so I work with a lot of gym owners, and we talk about hiring and staffing and whatever else. And I think a big problem is when a gym owner thinks that they need to have a staff of athletes probably isn't the right word, but like highly talented, competitive,
Sure.
they can
Yeah.
do everything
Yeah.
people. And I tend to contend the exact opposite due to the fact that you have the experience and the perspective that our members especially really appreciate.
Sure.
You've done it. You've lost 100 pounds. You've had to learn all these things. Like you came
Right.
in with a blank slate, not a blank slate. You had some fitness background, but
Sure. Yeah. I had some lifting background and some of those kind of things. But yeah, I had to learn a lot of these things.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that really, really resonates with people. Like I have a problem, and this I know when I say this, it sounds a little bit like arrogant or whatever, but like everything's been really second nature to me. Like I've
Mhm.
just been the
Sure.
person that like I think I did a muscle up my third try, picked up double unders fast, could do hand like it's just
Yeah.
you know, and that's
Yeah.
it's nice, it's convenient, but it's not good coaching. It's not a good
Mhm.
to I've had to work at trying to understand the experience and to try and convey, you know, different learning lessons that I've picked up by coaching, but not through personal experience. And I think that having the coach that can say, look, I can't do this, but here's where I'm at in the process. Here's what I've had to do. Here's what like my journey has been like. I think that resonates and is so much of a better perspective than stupid old me who's like, I don't know, just do it.
Right.
Like, why aren't you doing it now?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It helps you break down kind of some of the mechanics and stuff where people are kind of getting off the track a little bit and what they need to work on. Yeah. So, yeah, I think when you do have that experience of, it didn't come easy to you and you had to work for it. And then seeing, a good example for me was the first time I did a handstand. We had a coach at the gym and he's like, I'm not going to leave until you get up on that wall. And man, and like, I felt so bad because I'm like holding this guy up, and finally I got up against the wall and he's like, poof, now we can go. Great. I knew you could do it.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to just do this thing. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of things like that. Box jumps are another one that people get kind of intimidated by. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to face plant here. Everybody's going to laugh at me. And it's like, yeah, everybody's going to face plant at some point in time when you do box jumps, but you're probably not going to face plant on your first box jump. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I think the resiliency of building that stuff, again, it kind of comes back to the like walking into the gym or being last, like the overcoming of those obstacles, I think builds such a resiliency to life and the
Mm-hmm.
ability to know that it's hard and it's a struggle. And it's,
Yeah.
I seeing, this is a little, I feel old when I kind of complain about this, but the protecting kids from failure now, I think there's a more of a culture towards that, but like protecting kids from failure is such a detriment to their future.
Sure.
And the ability for them to like failing's okay and it's part of the process. But if you've never failed, you've never made a fool of yourself in front of a group, or you've never had to work at something, I think you get really scared at trying new things and being uncomfortable. And so, for you to get up on your hands and lean against that wall and potentially feel, I mean, Britton at the time, I'm sure he was thrilled to do it. Like and I'm sure he felt so elated.
He did. Yeah. I talked to him about it maybe a year or so ago, that was like a defining memory early on.
Yeah.
And I think that meant a lot to him. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And that's, but feeling like you're a burden to a coach or that you're a burden to the members or whatever, you're holding everybody up.
Right.
And getting over that and being comfortable with getting help and comfortable feeling uncomfortable is such a cool thing to push through and to do, regardless of even fitness. I think just for life.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess on that note, I heard yesterday at the gym, just a little water cooler talk around there, that you've taken up kettlebell juggling.
That I have.
So this is Kenny's chance to maybe not do the smartest sort of thing and look like a fool. And maybe then again, he figures it out, which he probably will. So, and then it'll be a cool party trick.
To be fair, I've done a lot of dumb stuff in that.
True. Gym. I saw you Turkish get up a rower this spring.
Yep.
That was one of your more recent accomplishments.
Tried a backflip once. That didn't go well. That may have permanently injured my neck.
Yeah.
Muscle up, handstand, push up. Yeah, there's been some really.
Yeah.
I've never been too scared to.
No, you just try it.
Yeah.
You try it, and you aren't scared to fail. So yeah, it's good.
Seriously injure myself. Maybe hopefully Jen won't listen to this. And
yeah, maybe.
yeah, when I come back without any toes.
We can edit that part.
Yeah.
No kettlebell juggling.
I'm glad people are talking about this. Now I have to do it. Now I've got to.
Yeah, I think you have to do it. Yeah.
Yep.
It'd be a good party trick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So talking about the retirement, like that was a great insight into the whole thing. I mean, that you've had a really, I think there's more to that story that's well worth hearing. And this is a little bit outside of the fitness context, but I think it does kind of come back around. What you did was cool, man. Like that's super cool. It's hard for people to do. Same thing. Walking to the gym, starting something new is hard, but walking away from something secure, something that you knew, knowing that, you wanted to have a brighter, more fulfilling future and taking the risk and starting a new business. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And actually, I think you were one of the first people that were like, why don't you try and just do this thing on your own? And I'm like, I can't do that, man. There's no way I can do that. And you can do it. I think it's a values realignment, right? You're going to trade some security for some more freedom and some more autonomy. And yeah, going to work for yourself is kind of a different deal that way. And you do really have to realign like that 40-hour-a-week thing where you got to go and be there and do the thing. And it's kind of wash, rinse, repeat. And with entrepreneurship and like it can be whatever you want it to be, right? You can kind of go as far as you want it to go and build it however you want to do it. And then the reward of that is a lot of freedom, right? There's a lot of liberty in that and being able to go and do some things. And I've always kind of had the travel bug and I've always liked to travel, but like traveling 2-3 weeks here or there is tough for the kind of stuff that I'm interested in. Was really, really challenging to do because, a lot of the cost in travel is just getting there. Like the places I like to go, cost is just getting there. And then once you're there, it's pretty cheap to do whatever you want to do and go have a pretty amazing experience. But you just need that time. And yeah, that's the thing I think I woke up to is like, I'm not going to have the stoke to do this when I'm 70 years old. I'll probably still travel, but I'm going to be probably like, like a lot of 70-year-olds. Well, I mean, I don't know. Your mom is she's an outlier for sure. She's not 70, but she's crazy. I love the adventures she goes on. Like, oh, I just randomly went to Cuba or whatever. And
Yep.
But I feel like I'm probably going to fall a little bit more towards the mean there and say I'm probably going to be like, going on one of these Danube River cruises or whatever, like doing that sort of thing. And some of the more adventure travel, like climbing a volcano and some of that kind of stuff, I think is a little bit harder when you're 70. So yeah,
maybe. I think that's I think seizing the day and like chasing it now, knowing that you have it. You can, you're not guaranteed the future. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. And just having the fitness and being able to do this stuff. And yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. You could injure your back or whatever, and you can't go sit on an airplane for however many hours or whatever. Yeah. So you don't really know what's going to happen. So I think it's really important to take advantage of the time while you can. So
yeah. And from my perspective too, like watching and having our conversations, and I've hopefully been helpful in some of the coaching through the entrepreneurial journey. Cause I've been on it for 15 years or whatever. Like it is very similar. Like you took on a pretty significant project over the summer, and I think you were nervous and anxious and like wondering if you could do it and wondering if you could handle it and wondering if, all the I'm going to say imposter syndrome, because I think it's a catchy term, but like same thing. It really, as we've talked about, the just showing up, knowing you're going to suck, you're going to make mistakes, it's going to be hard, but knowing that like by just showing up, you're going to learn, you're going to get better, and that the next time won't be as hard.
Right.
That's been cool. So I've watched you do that in at least three different contexts.
Yeah. It's that growth edge, right? And that's kind of where we see people at the gym too. Like if it's uncomfortable, it's probably pretty good for you. And that was, a key takeaway from some of that work I did this summer. And it was like, you just got to grow. You got to grow a little bit. And to do that, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but that's a good place to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. All the what ifs and this, I mean, yeah, you just can't know until you try and keep showing up and screwing it up, honestly. So,
right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you're going to have setbacks, and you're going to be able to look back on that and have a pretty good laugh about it. But in the moment, it's uncomfortable. Pushing through that is important. Yeah.
Yeah. And you got through it. You finished the job. You learned some stuff. Took you longer than you thought.
Yeah. It was a little intense at times, but we figured it out. And so we'll do it again next year, and it'll be easy.
Yep.
I mean, relatively compared to this year.
But it's a good story. I mean, you look back and laugh realistically. And I can't remember. I think it was Greg Everett, the guy that was Catalyst Athletics, said, if you don't look back a year ago and kind of laugh at where you were.
Oh, sure.
You probably aren't progressing enough. You're not making enough changes. And I think that's a great perspective to realize, like, yeah, you're going to look stupid or feel stupid. Maybe not look stupid, but you're going to feel dumb, and you're going to look back and think how stupid you were.
Right.
And you just got to keep doing that.
Yep.
And that's okay.
Yeah. You should be doing that your whole life,
Totally.
Or for as long as you can, right? Like you want to be growing, right? Like, I don't feel like I've peaked yet. I feel like I've still got a lot of living left to do and a lot of growth left to do, and trying to learn something new every day. I think that's a good way to go about it, and it keeps you sharp and keeps things interesting for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah. We can segue into, so Kirk and I basically started hunting together, which is hilarious.
Oh, yeah. You want to talk about looking like an idiot?
We were the
10 years ago
of idiots. And there's, the background isn't as expansive, but there's a bunch of heads and, what I would loosely define as success for both of us over those 10 years. But when we started, oh my gosh, we decided we were going to turkey hunt. That was kind of our foray into the thing. And we got access to private land where there was hundreds of turkeys roaming around. Yeah. And this poor woman would let us come and hunt, and we'd check in with her. And then every day we'd come back and check out with her and say, yep, nope, we didn't get any turkeys. And she looked at us like we were the biggest morons that ever walked the face of the earth.
Wrong, guys. What are you doing out here?
How about this one? Sitting in my hand. Yeah. And that's been a journey. You shot your first bear last spring.
Yes. Yeah. We had a good time out there. That was a really cool experience. Yeah. Thanks for making that happen last year. That was really cool.
I think we had a moment of recognition on the side of the hill. It was very romantic. Side of the hill.
Moonlit night.
Processing this bear. And it was like, man, 10 years ago, who would have thought we would be?
Yeah. No.
We'd be out here doing this.
Yeah. I think it's, and I definitely don't do nearly as much hunting as I used to, but I mean, you have really kind of taken that and the growth every year, what you've been able to do with that. And just through sheer perseverance and not just quitting and giving up on it. And,
I've quit many times.
Well, that's true. You quit every year. Although this year, I don't think you quit at any point this year. This is the first year. Yeah. You stopped quitting finally. So yeah, Kenny would have about a day where he was going to sell all of his gear every year, and would have given it to you for a song if you could have caught him at the right time. But about 24 hours is all you needed, and you were back on the horse. So
that's been the perspective. Like, that is, as far as my perspective and failure, again, as an athlete, like I've never had to try that hard, which, for better or worse, but the hunting experience for me was like, I have a very specific window into that protection from failure thing. And like, that's been a journey for me of like knowing that you're going to suck, you're going to fail, you're going to feel stupid, you're going to have 12-year-old kids that know how to hunt better than you do as a 35-year-old man.
Right.
But yeah, you've had a very specific window into my watching me fail and throw temper tantrums and leave all my crap on the side of the hill, try and sell it.
It's great.
And moan and wonder why and miss things. And
I've watched you get right back on the horse again right after all of that. Yeah, it's been cool.
Yeah.
It's been really cool.
So that's, again, I think that the lesson or topic of conversation has been like, knowing that that's okay. Like you're going to be uncomfortable, you're going to suck. And like, that's just part of the journey. If you walk in and you're amazing on the day one, like you're probably in the wrong
Yeah.
lane.
You're in the wrong thing. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you need to find something that's going to challenge you and and keep you a little bit humble too. I think that's been a good thing for all of us, right? Just kind of knowing there's somebody that's better than you and that's fine, right? It doesn't mean you need to not pursue something. Uh, yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's a good way to end.
Perfect, man.
Thanks,
This
dude.
is fun.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, we did it. I'll come back again.
Love it. After, hopefully we'll have a little more polish.
Well, yeah, you got to work the bugs out. It's good though.
What you hopefully won't hear is our 17 takes to get this thing even started. So,
well, there's the setbacks we were just talking
that's
about,
right?
right?
Yep. Yep. We'll look back and laugh. And I've got my Joe Rogan studio.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
Thanks, Kenny.
Yep.
Yep.
Thanks for listening.